Okay, I am recording. Okay, cool. So, hey, what's up, guys? So this is my second optional Zoom meeting. After I get done today, everybody should have enough material to begin exam one. And let me go to my share screen real quick so we can just give me 1 second. Let me just make sure everything is up and running. Sorry, this is going to be a lot of dead air probably. So let me. Okay, cool. Okay, so so my rules for online lectures is you guys, nobody has to attend them because they're optional, because you didn't sign up for a synchronous class where you have set meeting days. But when I do record a lecture and post it to Canvas, you should be watching it right now. And I'll send this in an email as well, but you should at the very least watch the videos, because there's probably something in the recordings that might not be in the modules itself, right? Might not be in any of the PowerPoints. So you always want to make sure that that you got as much information as you can to take these exams. So before we start into any of my formal lectures, I want to tell you guys, just kind of go over a primer of what preference, or not preference falsification, that's next week's lecture, but what cognitive dissonance is, because I didn't grade the post too hard. If you made a fruitful post with a lot of good beats and talking points, who's that? Anthony. Anthony, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask if I could talk to you after class.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you guys can always talk to me before class, after class, schedule a meeting, whatever works for you. Call me. I still need to put my phone number in the module, so I'll do that later. But we have to understand what cognitive dissonance is, because a lot of people in a lot of the messages I saw, they were like, oh, what they were talking about dissonance between them and their family. And that's not cognitive dissonance. The one thing that we can't control is what other people think. We can influence the way other people think, but we can't necessarily control that. If somebody hates you, they just hate you. If someone loves you, they love you. If the girl that you like, the boy that you like, doesn't like you back, you can probably do things to get them on your side, but at the end of the day, it's up to them to figure out what they want. The cognitive dissonance, this is very important, is the conflicts that we have with ourselves. That's what cognitive dissonance is about. It's not about my conflict with my girlfriend, or my conflict with my mom, or my conflict with my grandmother. It's about the conflict that I have with myself, two competing thoughts. And it doesn't necessarily have to be one thought is right and one thought is wrong. A lot of times one thought would be more right than the other, but it could just be something as simple as you double booked yourself for 2 appointments. You booked yourself for your anniversary dinner with your girlfriend or boyfriend on the same night that you booked meeting up with one of your old friends to go out with beer and burgers or something, and they're only going to be in town for that week, or that day, and you got to kind of make a decision as to which one is going to be the best for you. So in your head or on a sheet of paper or something, you weigh out the pros and cons and then come to a conclusion. It has nothing to do with the beefing with your family over politics. Those things are going to happen. This is about the communication that you have with yourself, right? And I think is that Matthew with the name Betsy Harry going on?
This isn't intentional. I can't get the meaning to rename myself.
Okay, that's all good. I just want to make sure I'm calling you by the right name. I don't want to be calling you Betsy. All right. So, but anyway,
she uses this computer for Zoom meetings more often than me, so
okay, I got you.
It's just programmed to remember her name.
Right. Okay. So yeah, but it's not going to be about Matthew's beefs with his with Betsy over whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be about our beefs with our internal selves. That's what we have to understand about that. Are there any questions about that? Okay, because there were a few people that got that wrong, and if you did get it wrong, I did put it in the comments of your post. I haven't really had a chance to comment on any of the Saturday posts, but I'll do that here soon. But I want you guys to get that clear. So when you do this week's discussion, let me go to that real quick. The discussion on preference falsification. Hidden Brain podcast. I want you guys to be thorough and try to get the right answer. I don't want any guessing games or whatever, because on the last discussion, like I said, Matthew, I liked your post. It was a good, solid post.
Thank you.
And I think a lot of you guys kind of understood it, and then some of you guys didn't really get it. So I just want to make sure that you understand that. And that's why the materials are in the modules. It's there for you to read and then post, listen to the podcast, listen to the whole podcast. Don't half-ass it. You're already not going to campus this semester, all right? So the very least you could do is the work that's assigned to you. You don't even have to meet for classroom meetings, right? So just make sure you're doing that part, and we will get along swimmingly. So, so this is this week's discussion. Listen to the Hidden Brain podcast. This discussion I'm making due on Saturday instead of Friday, like I did last week, because I kind of want to give you guys time to answer it. So just get that done, whatever you can. I like this podcast a lot, because sometimes when you think you're doing everything right, you're probably not. Sometimes we really have to dig deep in thought in this subject, man. It's never going to be just a black and white answer, that's how life goes in general. So let me get to the modules, kick this lecture off, and then we will.
Question.
Go ahead.
Will we find all the answers in the podcast, or will we have to research additional things on our own?
Okay, so if I give you the podcast, then that's you could research different stuff, but all I posted was the podcast, because I really want you to hone in on the podcast. And the podcast will give you the definition to everything, right?
Okay.
So it's going to give you everything that you need. If there's more than one link, trust me when I tell you, I will post every single link I want you to look up. So you're never going to have to worry about that with me. So we did ideology last week, we did psychology. Ideology is a lecture that I'm not going to do, So read up on that. If you want me to answer questions, if you have any questions about this PowerPoint, ask them to me and I got no problem answering it, but I'm not going to do that lecture. Psychology was one I thought I needed to do because it explains how psychology works. Let me look at the cognitive dissonance ones because I kind of went crazy with this last week. Let me see if there's anything from this one that I need to go back over. If there's not, then I'll just zoom through whatever needs to be zoomed through. We don't have to kind of spend too much time on it. Okay. Okay, so cognitive dissonance. So again, for the exam, answering these questions will be able to help you. What is cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance theory, how to reduce cognitive dissonance, methodologies to reduce cognitive dissonance, and conclusions. So again, cognitive dissonance is not necessarily a bad thing, but you do go about your life a little bit better when you have less cognitive dissonance, right? Because it's the mental stress of discomfort experienced by an individual who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values at the same time. So both things could be true. Usually both things are true, but you have to come to a conclusion to come to a right answer. Like, so the thing with the double booking yourself for an anniversary date with your wife, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, or you're hanging out with your friend that's going to be in town that one day of the week. Those are conflicting things because you can't do both at the same time. And you probably want to do both, but you can't because it's not going to work out like that. So ultimately you have to come up with a decision. So you have to say, well, my friend was, say your friend was just in war or something. He just got home from Iraq or Kosovo or Afghanistan or whatever. And he's in town, but he's only going to be in town for that day. You might choose hanging out with him over your wife that day. But say it's your wife, is she just had major surgery or went through something traumatic, you might choose hanging out with her. So that's how the cognitive dissonance aspect of things works. It is incompatible that an individual might perceive between two or more attitudes or between behavior and attitude. So like I said last week, one of my biggest struggles was eating the right foods, right? In that situation, one was gonna be better for my long-term health. Eating right and losing weight and stuff, that was gonna be better for my long-term health. That doesn't mean I don't like eating junk food or drinking beer or any of that stuff. I still like that stuff, but doing too much of that was going to be bad for me. So this is where the dissonance comes in, is the competing ideas. Transfer this to politics. This is always going to be a thing with politics, at least for me. I don't take voting lightly. I don't take any of my decisions lightly. Some of this stuff is like pretty slam dunk, I'm not, like, I'm anti-racist and stuff like that. So that's easy for me. But there's certain things, like when it comes to like economical decisions and things of that nature, where I really do have to do a lot of soul searching to come up with an answer that is going to make me comfortable and sleep well at night. All right. So cognition 1 versus cognition 2. And then this is where the cognitive dissonance comes in. Two competing ideas: cognition 1, cognition 2, cognitive dissonance motivated to reduce. All right. So yeah, so I'll talk about Festinger for a second. Dissonance theory suggests that we have an inner drive to hold our attitudes and beliefs in harmony and avoid disharmony. So ultimately, what's gonna happen? You don't like the dissonance in your head, right? Hugo, you don't like having competing thoughts in my head. Matt, you don't like it. Anthony, I don't like having competing thoughts in my head. It confuses me and make things uncomfortable. So you have to, this is where weighing out the pros and cons comes in, because you have to come to a decision. You have to. And what we do often is make the wrong decision. And when we're making the wrong decision, we start rationalizing why the wrong decision is really the right decision, right? So if I love eating junk food, if I love smoking, whatever, smoking makes me feel good. Eating junk food makes me feel good. You only live once, so why might as well do it this way or whatever. So that's kind of how I rationalize doing something that I know is probably wrong for me, but I want to do it anyway. According to Festinger, we hold many cognitions about the world and ourselves. When they clash, a discrepancy is evoked, resulting in a state of tension known as cognitive dissonance. As the experience of cognitive dissonance is unpleasant, we are motivated to reduce, eliminate, and achieve consonance. I don't know why I couldn't read that. Sorry, consonance. All right. So this is, I'm not going to get too philosophical with you on this subject, because this is a political science class. Reading this PowerPoint might help you answer the question better when you take it on the exam, because remember, on the exam, I want thorough answers to questions. I don't want you writing cognitive dissonance is bad or cognitive dissonance is good, and that's the end of your answer. Thoughtful, thought-provoking, fruitful conversation. I want you to talk to me like you know what you're talking about, like you've given what you type in your answer a lot of thought. Okay. So this is how we reduce cognitive dissonance. Change one or more of the attitudes, acquire new information. So change one or more of the attitudes. You do this by studying up on this and doing research and then coming to a conclusion. Acquiring new information. You are never too old to take in information. I've heard people say, oh, I'm already set in my ways. I'm never going to change. Change is the essence of life. If your thoughts are not evolving, then you're not doing something right. Not saying you have to change your world views on things all the time, but as you take in new information, your thoughts should evolve with that. If somebody is presenting something new to you, or you've done your research, and even if it's something you thought your whole life, and you get new information that contradicts that, it should at least be considered. And it's got to be from people who know what they're talking about, who, like, if you know, I'm a political science professor. My job isn't to give you guys your opinions. My job is to get you guys on the right trajectory to think about how you came to your opinions or how you came to the conclusions that you have. The job of an instructor is not to kind of, in the political science realm, there's room for kind of different thoughts on things, right? If it was like in different theories and all that stuff, if this was a math class or whatever, or this was a science class, there are certain things that don't get a whole lot of debate. You know, if the law of gravity is a real thing, what goes up must come down. You know, that's gonna happen 100% of the time. 1 + 1 is always going to equal 2. There's no arguing with that. That is a fact. different from an opinion, a fact. So this is how we get to these thoughts. And adding a new cognition and justify the behavior. Sometimes you're just going to justify what you already want to believe because it's just the easiest thing to do. I've been listening to Tucker Carlson for 20 years. I love Tucker Carlson. No one's going to change my mind about it, that kind of thing. This is where cognitions sometimes go. Okay. So this is the one example I gave earlier. Matt, if you don't mind muting yourself until you have a question, and then you can unmute. That's fine. All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks. No problem. All right. So smoking cigarettes is unhealthy. That's one thought. For the most part, it's a fact. Unpleasant tension state. I smoke cigarettes. Not only do I smoke cigarettes, I like smoking cigarettes. So you got these thoughts competing. So the first cognition, smoking cigarettes is unhealthy. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. Or research on smoking is not conclusive. I smoke cigarettes. So if you're coming with the attitude that research on smoking is not conclusive, research on nothing is really that conclusive, but from the research that we have, that we're privy to, smoking cigarettes is not healthy, but the rationalization part is going to come in the second part of the cognition. So sometimes you do the forced compliance when someone is forced to do publicly something they privately really don't want to do. Dissonance is created between their cognition, I don't want to do this, and their behavior, I did it. So when I was having my weight trouble, when I was just massively overweight and stuff, this happened with me all the time. A lot of times I just didn't want to do it, man, especially if I'm working an 8-hour, 9-hour, 12-hour shift. The easiest thing for me to do is eat junk food and drink after work because it felt good in that moment. It gave me pleasure. You know what I'm saying? And some people have this with other things, you know what I'm saying? Like a fornicator or somebody or someone like that, someone who's got a sex addiction, they always want to feed that addiction. That's a real thing. And sex, by general rule of thumb, feels good. This is stuff that we know. But being promiscuous might not be the best thing, right? Effort justification to achieve some desired goal and this dissonance can be reduced by exaggerating the desirability of the goal. The decision-making, when you have the choice between equally attractive alternatives and after making a decision, the attitude changes, you have to accept the decision. So the conclusion of cognitive dissonance has many useful applications in the field of education and motivating students to engage in educational activities. The theory also predicts that individuals reward for their performance or task. Knowledge of these dynamics would be beneficial not only in the fields of motivation, persuasive psychology, but I'm skipping over some of this, but perhaps more importantly in many real life situations as well, like consume behavior, promoting healthy and pro-social behavior, etc. So like say when Kobe Bryant was playing basketball, right? He sacrificed a lot. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, whoever, they sacrificed a lot to excel in their fields. Was it worth it to those guys? Some might say yes, some might say no. It depends on what your perspective is. If Kobe Bryant's ultimate goal was to be the best basketball player on the planet, he might have had to skip some, family outings or whatever, couldn't go to certain like recitals or plays or whatever of his daughters. So maybe, but on the other side of that, he provided his family with a better life financially. So that kind of, is, again, it's about what's most important to you. And I can't tell you what's right or wrong. It's about what's most important to you. All right, let me see. So that's the end of that. That's just a quick overview of cognitive dissonance. So let me move on to the next one. What time is it? 10:25. So we're about 30 minutes in. I think right at 30 minutes in, we'll take a quick break. And then I have to come back to do the rest of the presentation. So logical fallacies, symptoms of groupthink. All right, let me go to logical fallacies real quick. Okay, so to get to a point to have sound political thought, we have to kind of understand what sound political thought is, right? We can't just, believe everything that's just automatically presented to us, because that's not going to work. We have to think through things. And a lot of people don't do that. There's a whole media market for people who do not think. They just make things up as they go along. You never want to be in that position. A logical fallacy is an element of an argument that is flawed, essentially rendering the line of reasoning, if not the entire argument, invalid. You oftentimes see logical fallacies used in politics and advertising. So this is kind of what I'm going over with you guys, is the political advertising look. So these are just a few logical fallacies, believe it or not. This isn't all of them. This is a few. There's plenty of these. We've got ad hominem, false analogy, red herring, bandwagon, overgeneralization, transference, euphemism, testimonials, and appeal to fear. So ad hominem translated from the Latin term, Latin for to the man. An ad hominem argument is just that. When an argument starts getting personal and attacks are made against a person rather than to support an argument, that is an ad hominem logical fallacy. In any situation, mudslinging is a poor substitute for a well-reasoned argument. So let me watch this video. I hope it works. So let's watch this video real quick.
It's not right.
All right.
Tony, welcome to the bleeping truth, everybody.
Hold on one second. Let me maximize the window if I can. Okay.
Today we have a special treat. I have two people that have been on the show twice before, and I would liken them, actually twice before with each other. And I would liken them to Ali and Frazier, because it seems like the first time, I would say Tony had a slight edge. The second time, Joe came out swinging. Now this is the third time that I have both of them on here.
I don't accept that. I've never lost.
And today,
I don't think there's any winner or loser.
I'm not saying winner or loser. This is what the viewers were saying. I'm just saying.
Personal.
I'm talking about your politics.
You started.
You're
being
talking about my
personal.
weight. So obviously
Exactly.
you have a
called me
problem with
liar.
talking about
you
the
called
facts.
me a liar. I'm not a liar.
And you get
I called
very
you
aggressive.
Fat. You are fat.
You are very aggressive, and it's obvious that you want to hit me, but you haven't done it yet. So we're all waiting. My advice to you is that you need to work on that control issue, and let's keep talking about the issues.
Am I a liar?
Yes, you have lied on this program about the
Are
issues.
you fat?
Yes. Hi,
All right,
America.
now tell
Good to
me
see
what I
you.
lied about, and when you can get up and show them your facts.
You won't talk
Tell
about
them what
the
I lied.
issues,
Tell them
Joe.
what I
It's
lied
not my
about.
problem.
Guys,
that you're
guys,
not
Talking
talking
about
about
the issue
guys.
is not lying.
Here you are, Joe.
Do it.
Joe,
Do it.
you
Tell
are
them
a
what
child.
I lied about, fat boy.
No, come on, Joe, please. I'm sorry.
Then give
Let's
it to them.
not do this.
Let's see how big you are.
Please. Sorry, Tony.
Keep your hands off of me,
Fuck you.
And guys,
fat boy.
please. Joe, please. Folks, I'm sorry you had to see that.
Why?
It's not right.
Okay.
Tony.
That's assault. That is assault.
All right. So do you see the problem with that exchange right there? Yes, no?
Yeah, I kind of see a problem. Neither one of them are willing to listen to each other.
Yeah, yeah. And then the guy that was the ad hominem. What's the ad hominem part of the attack in that exchange? Where's the ad hominem?
When he called the guy fat.
Yeah, when he calls the guy fat, that clearly wasn't the subject they were talking about, but he calls the guy fat. The guy gets offended by that, and then he throws a chair at him. You know what I'm saying? So, and this is the problem with these ad hominem attacks, is they usually lead to things of that exchange, right? You know, you start talking about something out of the subject, then you start getting personal with the attacks, talk about somebody's mama, their daddy, all that stuff. So this is kind of where we don't want to be when we're arguing. We want to be from a sound, logical place. So the false analogy, this logical fallacy disregards significant dissimilarities and wrongly implies that because two items are similar in some respects, they are therefore similar in all respects. So for example, when comparing the health risks of marijuana use and tobacco use and finding some similarities between the two, does not mean that they pose the same risks in other aspects, such as using them while driving. Okay, so let's look at this real quick.
Huh?
All right, sorry about that.
A false analogy is an invalid.
Hold 1 second. So my power. I'm so sorry. I'm having issues with this. All right, we'll just let it stay that way until I fix it later.
Conclusion drawn from a comparison between two dissimilar things or ideas. It's like comparing apples and oranges. The form of a false analogy fallacy is as follows. A is like B, and B has property X, therefore A has property X. This fallacy is especially useful in the field of statistics, politics, and advertising. It is also one of the most common propaganda techniques used. An example will be from this car commercial.
Raymond, you see, has waited his whole life to try ice cream. When he was young, Raymond told himself he'd try ice cream once he turned 30. Then it was after he got married. And now it's when he gets the big promotion. So Raymond has just gotten used to saying, well, maybe next year. And to many people, his decision doesn't make much sense. Clearly he wants ice cream. He knows he can afford it. It might even enrich his life, and yet he resists. Still, some nights he lies awake, wondering what ice cream tastes like.
Okay. So I'll let this play.
First, a car is being compared to ice cream, which satisfies the condition A is like B. So B, the ice cream, is a desire of Raymond's. Therefore, a conclusion is drawn that A, the car, is a desire of Raymond's too. However, there is no evidence to support the conclusion Raymond wants a car, since ice cream and a car are two vastly different things. As a result, the analogy is false.
Okay. So do you understand what the girl is saying?
Welcome
Right?
to this
Hold on.
video.
All right. So do you get all that?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Right. So the commercial is about this car, but they use eating ice cream to jump. This guy never eaten ice cream to jump to the conclusion that he should get the car. That's not really a sound line of reasoning. So when you watch political conversations on TV, the talking heads shows, all that stuff, always pay attention to the lines of reasonings, the false analogies and stuff like that, to see if they make sense. Because the thing is, in the age that we live in, this is how people argue. They jump from one conclusion to a vastly different conclusion that has nothing to do with anything. So, and that is a logical fallacy, and it happens all the time in this field of the science that we call political. So this is a good one too. The red herring is an intentional detour from an issue. An example, an argument regarding condoms in school, one may try to argue that the parents should be responsible for providing their children with sexually responsible related information. While that may be true, it does not address the issue of whether condoms should be available in school. You know, you're saying, okay, parents should be responsible for that. But that's not answering the question, should they be available in school? So let's watch this video and see what they say.
Red herring is another well-known fallacy type, but it's easily confused with straw figure. So here I want to highlight the differences between the two. The name red herring comes from an old method of training dogs for fox hunting. The goal is to train the dogs to follow the fox's scent, even if the dogs encounter other smells that are potentially distracting. So what they do is they let the fox go, so the fox leaves a scent trail. Then, before letting the dogs go, they drag a bunch of smelly red herrings across the fox's trail, like this. Then they release the dogs. When the dogs hit the herring trail, they'll be distracted by the smell, and some will be inclined to follow the herring trail instead. So the trainers try to get the dogs to stay on the fox trail and resist the urge to follow the herring. So what's what with this metaphor? Well, the fox is some argument, the original argument that is at issue in a debate. The dog can represent anyone who is interested and engaged in this argument. The red herring is something that distracts you from following the trail of the original argument. It might be a new and different argument that raises a different issue, or simply an irrelevant comment that distracts from the main issue. What's important is that it's distracting enough to make the audience want to follow this new trail, away from the original argument and the main issue. So putting all this together, you commit the red herring fallacy when, in an argument, you divert attention away from the main issue or the main line of argumentation by introducing something that changes the subject, that raises a new issue that isn't relevant to the preceding line of discussion. The fallacy really occurs when you then conclude something from this different issue, or presume that some conclusion has been established, and use this to claim that you've won the argument or said something relevant about the original argument. In this respect, the fallacy is very much like a straw figure fallacy, in that you are mistakenly or misleadingly saying that you've won an argument or refuted an argument when all that you've really done is avoid engaging the original argument. But it's different from the straw figure fallacy in that a straw figure involves distorting or misrepresenting some original argument, and then knocking down the distorted argument. In a red herring, the arguer ignores the opponent's argument and subtly changes the subject. So to distinguish between the two, you need to ask yourself whether the arguer has knocked down a distorted argument or simply changed the subject. Here's a summary of the points just made. To illustrate the difference, consider this. I overheard my friend John argue that the Bible has errors in it. Funny, I never figured him for an atheist. This is a straw figure, not a red herring, since the conclusion being drawn is related to the main argument that his friend is making about the Bible. But it's clearly working off of a distorted or exaggerated version of it, if it equates biblical fallibilism with atheism. Now compare that to this one. My opponent has argued that there's an urgent need to reduce greenhouse gases in order to minimize global warming. But the most serious problem facing future generations is the risk posed by nuclear weapons in the hands of rogue states and terrorists. This is where we need to focus our attention and resources. This is a red herring. The original issue was about greenhouse gases and the urgency of global warming. This response sidesteps that issue and introduces a new issue. To avoid committing a red herring, the arguer would need to show that global warming isn't an urgent problem, or that reducing greenhouse gas emissions won't be effective in reducing it, or something like that. Nuclear weapons in the hands of terrorists is certainly a serious issue, but that fact does nothing to undermine the original argument about global warming.
Okay, so
I want to share something with y'all that has truly.
Okay, so that's kind of where we're at with the red herring fallacy. Is that the argument is about one thing, and then you take that one thing and flip the subject on it. You see this in political debates all the time. I encourage you this political season to watch debates, or even when if you get time later on YouTube, watch how the politicians will flip the subject when they start when it's convenient for them to do. They'll be talking about like drug use or something, and how drug use is bad, and they'll bring up something like, well, your son used to use drugs, and that really has nothing to do with them or anything it relates to that. That's kind of that argument they're talking about the person's son takes them off the issue of drug use, right? That's where the red herring comes, because you've taken the herrings and you put them in the middle of argument to take the argument to a place that it really isn't supposed to go to, right? And the straw figure argument is where you just jump to an outrageous conclusion based off of just one thing somebody says. Like the guy said that the Bible is fallible, so you automatically jump to the conclusion that this guy must be an atheist. There is a logic in that realm of thinking, because the guy, he might not be an atheist, he might just question some of the things that he reads in the Bible, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he or she does not believe in God, right? So this bandwagon fallacy, the logical fallacy, represents the impression that everybody is doing it, so you should too. And this is very, very common. You get the logical fallacies in so many political ads, ads for television, like ads for shoes, ads for clothes, all this other stuff. In actuality, a t-shirt is a t-shirt. It serves the same purpose that a Walmart t-shirt serves the same purpose as a t-shirt that you might get at Bloomingdale's or something like that. All serves the same purpose, but the advertising part of it makes you want to think oh, everybody's wearing this or everybody's doing that, so you should get it too. You got a lot of like Jordans and stuff like that. Everybody's wearing Jordans, so you should wear them too, right? It's kind of how that works. Let's watch this video. This is a Coca-Cola commercial. It says, where's the sound at in this thing? Hold on. 1 second. All right, this does have sound in it. I don't know why. But anyway, so basically the gist of this commercial is they're showing people all over the world drinking Coca-Cola, dancing, having a good time, drinking Coke. That's what the commercial is. And at the end of the commercial, it says always Coca-Cola. That's the gist of this commercial. So that was the Coca-Cola catchphrase in the 90s, always Coca-Cola. But again, let me make sure get this right. What sound I just start coming up. Okay. So again, that's just a bandwagon fallacy. If everybody is doing something, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it too. That's a fallacy. So the overgeneralization fallacy. This is an interesting one too. This fallacy is an error in reasoning which comes by making logical leap far greater than what the data allows. For example, it says, I just read that 3 kids arrested yesterday in Brochard Park for drug possession, where they were arrested for drug possession. So the conclusion that they come to is teens in this country are really going downhill, right? So where's the overgeneralization at in this statement right here? Where's the overgeneralization?
The drugs.
Who said? Raymond, go ahead. What'd you say?
The kids in the possession of drugs.
Yeah. But what's the conclusion that he came to based off of that?
Oh, that the teens are going downhill.
Yeah, then that could just be those kids in that park at that particular day on that particular time are smoking, and those kids might be going downhill. It doesn't mean in general teens are going downhill, right? That's a ridiculous conclusion to jump to just based off of that. So, or the other one that's posted here is teenagers are bad drivers. Parents' car insurance rates can spike anywhere from 50 to 200% higher once a teen drives. A teen driver is included on the policy. That doesn't necessarily mean teens are bad drivers. That's just what happens when you have more than one teenager on a policy. And maybe that research from that insurance company shows that teens might get into accidents more than older drivers, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad drivers, you know? And people do this all the time with other stuff too. Like especially if you take something like music, everybody from their era thinks their music is the best music. That's called a nostalgia bias. You just kind of think that, but you really don't. You can't really say that because that's kind of like a taste thing, right? What do you like or what do you prefer, all that. So transference as it is, let me see, associated with a product to demote it, linking an item to respect a person or a positive transfer. So with transference, with the example in this Marlboro cigarette ad, using cowboys and Marlboro commercials to relate to cigarettes and cowboys. So it's kind of trying to Jedi mind trick you into thinking this cowboy is cool, and because he's smoking a cigarette, you should do it too. And they do it with all kinds of ads, middle-aged women in household cleaning product commercials. So when you're home in the middle of the day, and if you're watching like soap operas or talk shows or whatever, they will have like commercials for like baby food or like just whatever commercial, baby food, cleaning products, the Pine Sol lady, all that stuff, to kind of get a woman to think about doing this, and or because those commercials are primarily targeted towards women. That doesn't mean women are the only ones that do household things. But even if you go like you turn it to the Cartoon Network, you're gonna see a bunch of commercials for like all the latest toys, G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip and things like that. You'll probably see about 20 commercials for the trailer to Spider-Man, the Far From Home, that kind of thing. So euphemism is substituting a mild, indirect, or vague term for one considered harsh, blunt, or offensive. Political euphemisms are designed to sway public opinion. So you get different terms used like undocumented worker, illegal aliens, depending on which side of the political aisle that you're on, you'll use one over the other. Enhanced interrogation, torture, extrajudicial execution. It really depends on the side of the political aisle you're on. Pro-life versus pro-choice for abortion. Any political person is gonna frame that argument. If you're for it, you're gonna say I'm pro-life. If you're against abortion, or if you're for abortion, you're gonna say pro-choice. If you're against abortion, you're gonna say you're pro-life, you know. And this little ad here with the baby, I hope mommy is pro-life. That's aimed to tug at a heartstring. That's what that is aimed to do. All right, so testimonial, Michael Jordan wears Hanes, you should wear Hanes. Michael Jordan wears Nikes, you should wear Nikes. Real simple stuff with testimonials. Generally, public people identify themselves to some celebrity figure, so celebrities are used to advertise certain products. Then the appeal to fear. I just had brain surgery a week ago, so look at the ads to scare people away. One of them is to scare people away from riding their motorcycles without a helmet. The other one is to scare people away from smoking. Both could be true on their face. It's just kind of glib and doesn't really give you a detailed account of how things happen, right? They have this guy over here looking like Frankenstein's monster right here, right? With the scar on his head. That's not how my brain surgery scar looks, but it, does the job, I suppose. So anyway, I wanted to go over that. So right now let's take a 10-minute break. It's 10:53. And then I'll zip through the other ones. I've set aside a 2-hour block for this because I didn't want to rush through anything. So I did, in the email I sent, I said I was going to set aside a 2-hour block. So why don't we break for about 5-10 minutes? Let's do, what do you guys rather do, 5 or 10 minutes for a break?
10 minutes.
All right, so nice. All right, so Matthew was the one to answer for us. Let's do 10 minutes and come back and I'll finish up the day, okay? So,
okay.
All right, so let's do that. I'm gonna, go ahead.
Professor, could we try doing that ad code now? Try that ad code again? I did call them yesterday.
Okay, what'd they say?
Well, it's just that I forgot the ad code, so.
Okay, all right, let me see if it's still there. Hold on 1 second. Let me stop this recording. This is too much information for the students.